Good evening and welcome to the latest edition of the RO Sports Show, of course brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. We hope everyone out there watching had a great week. How about you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Going good.
All right, well, my name is Matt Harrelson. Of course, to my right, as always, Jeremy McKenzie, and to his right, Russell Parker. And, of course, guys, the madness is upon us. We finally reached March Madness. It is here. We're going to talk about that here in just a quick second. But first of all, just want to recap for those watching. Of course, UNC beat Duke 74-69 this past Friday, then moved on to face Virginia in the ACC Championship. Of course, as we know, lost 71-63. The Cavaliers becoming the not only the regular season champs, but the ACC tournament champs as well. Now, of course, Virginia ended up being the number one seed overall and the number one seed in the South region. So, you know, we did some brackets when they first came out. I know there's some play-in games that are already happening, but as far as the bulk of it, I want to start with you guys and ask you, out of the four regions, which one do you think is the toughest, just looking at the matchups?
We're looking at the Charlotte region because you're looking at Chapel Hill being the low seed, but they have pretty much have a fight to get back to where they are, and if they want to repeat national champions, they're gonna have to come with their A game.
All right.
I think the West is the toughest region. I mean, there's so many top teams down there. Of course, UNC and Michigan are first two in my mind. But I think the easiest will be the East.
Okay.
Got, Alabama and that one having a really tough time. I think if you're Villanova, it's gonna be easy for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Jeremy, which one do you think might be the easiest to navigate?
I think it'd be the East.
Yeah.
The East.
You know, when I was looking at it, I started breaking down who's going to play who, because obviously March Madness is all about matchups. With talking about Virginia being the number one seed in the South, I think the South is going to be the toughest region because you have the number one overall seed there. You have a number two seed in Cincinnati, who, in my opinion, is a good team. I don't know personally if they should be a 2 seed. But looking through as you move down the bracket, your number 4 seed is an Arizona team that started the year in the top 5, have one of the top players in the entire tournament in DeAndre Ayton. And then your 5 seed is Kentucky, another team that started out in the top 10, maybe even top 5 when the season started. Now, it's loaded with freshmen, as it is every year. They haven't had the season that Kentucky Wildcat fans expect. But when a team is this talented, you kind of expect them to turn it on and maybe gel a little bit once they get to March Madness and kind of just beat everybody on talent. So I think because of the depth in the South, that's the toughest. Now, I agree with you guys. The East, to me, is the easiest. I think Villanova has almost a straight path to the Final Four. You know, when I was breaking down my bracket, I think the only team that might give them some trouble is the number 2 seed Purdue. But again, I think when those two teams match up, Villanova would just be too much for the Boilermakers. Now, talking about upsets, we always expect some kind of upset or 2 or 3 when it comes to March Madness. A lot of times you see 12 seeds beat 5s. I think the only upset that has yet to happen is a 16 seed beating a 1 seed. I don't necessarily see that happening this year, but as far as upsets, what do you guys got?
well, I actually got NC State upsetting Kansas in the second round and Auburn in the third round.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
you've got NC State going all the way. I guess that would be the Elite Eight at that point.
I think they got some. I think they've got the will to win. I think Kansas and Auburn will both. Well, for Kansas, I think they might underestimate them. But I think Auburn, they have not been a great team, but I think they will make a few rounds. But I feel like NC State has that potential to go on and beat those teams like Auburn.
Okay. Jeremy, who's your upset pick?
I'd like to see Dave, like for the first round. I'd like to see Davidson beat Kentucky.
Yeah, and that could very well happen. You know, Davidson is one of those teams since Steph Curry and before that that's perennially been one of those higher seed teams that end up doing well in the tournament. One that I've got that I'm probably going to be in the minority is I've got number 12 seed Murray State beating number 5 seed West Virginia in the first round. West Virginia is known, the Bob Huggins system is they just put a lot of pressure on you throughout the game, a lot of full court presses. Murray State's a team that can run, though, and I think they'll be able to figure out a way to break all those presses and upset the Mountaineers. Another one that I have SF Austin, Stephen F. Austin University, not only beating number 3 seed Texas Tech in the first round, but then going on and beating Florida to make their way to the Sweet 16. So I don't know if a lot of people have SF Austin. That's another one of these small mid-majors that always tends to do well in the tournament. Now, a couple of different matchups that I highlighted I want to get your guys' opinion on. Clemson has the opportunity to perhaps face Auburn. Now, this is typically a football matchup.
Yeah.
But just to put you on the spot, because you're an SEC guy, we're ACC guys. Clemson and Auburn. Who do you think ends up winning that one on the court instead of on the field?
I'll go for Clemson.
Okay.
I would too. I just don't. Auburn has kind of dropped the ball here in the past few weeks. They didn't do well at all in the SEC tournament. I don't think Auburn really has that agility anymore to continue on through the tournament. So I would say Clemson will beat them.
Yeah, I think we're all in accordance on that one because I agree with you. Auburn's been an okay team. They were at the top of the SEC for a long part of the season, but also I think they beat some teams they were supposed to. Of course, they lost some that they weren't supposed to as well. I'm going to take Clemson. I thought when Grantham, their point guard, went down, that was going to be the end for him, but it's not. Clemson has a couple of big men that can run up and down the court and get rebounds, so I agree with you guys. And then as I mentioned in the South, there is an opportunity in the second round for Kentucky to face Arizona. To me, that's a game you usually would see in like the Elite Eight or maybe even the Final Four. Who you guys got on that matchup?
I'm gonna pull for an upset on that one. I'll be Arizona Wildcats will beat Kentucky.
All right.
I'm going to go with Kentucky on this one. They have shown that they can handle the pressure when it comes to a tournament. They won the SEC championship tournament. I think with that being said, I think they can continue to have that success throughout the entire tournament.
All right. I think Arizona's going to win. Matter of fact, I have Arizona making my Final Four, and we're going to get to that in just a
I got
second.
Kentucky all the way.
Oh, dude.
Oh, God knows.
I just, as I mentioned earlier, Arizona has DeAndre Ayton, who is a phenomenal big man. He's going to be one of the top 5 picks in the NBA draft coming up. And I think that Kentucky will be able to get by Davidson in the first round. And all that talent that I spoke about a minute ago, I think that Arizona will be able to counter that and get that one done. Now, give me your Final Four.
My Final Four will be Arizona, Chapel Hill, because I got to go for the defending reigning national champions.
All right. Who's your other two?
And my other two will pretty much be, pretty much Villanova and I would like to say Butler.
Okay. Well, Butler with it. Okay. All right.
I've got Kentucky facing Villanova and UNC facing Duke.
Okay.
We'll have a part 4 there.
Right. I've got Arizona coming out of the South. I've got Xavier coming out of the West, and I've got Villanova out of the East and Michigan State out of the Midwest. So I've actually got 2 number 1 seeds in Villanova and Xavier, who are both from the Big East. Of course, Arizona the 4 from the Pac-12, and Michigan State as a 3 seed.
I actually read mine backwards. I meant to say Kentucky versus UNC and Villanova versus Duke. So
all right.
Clear that.
Now, I know you said that you're taking Kentucky overall. Who you got them beating?
Villanova.
Okay.
I think it'd be a close one, 70, I'm going to say 78-75.
Okay.
I would say the same. I would love to see a rematch with Chapel Hill versus Villanova, what happened a couple of years ago. But I think if they would play in the national championship again, I think from the experience from a couple of years ago, I think Chapel Hill will pretty much dominate during that time, pretty much 81 to pretty much 76.
All right. And as I mentioned last week when we discussed this a little bit, I took Xavier then. I'm going to stick with him. I think Trayvon Blewett, who I mentioned last week, is a senior leader, a guy that can do kind of what Kemba Walker did several years ago with the UConn Huskies, and can be a guy that can come in, take over the tournament, score 25, 26 points a game. So I'm going to go Xavier over Michigan State, 77-69 for the Musketeers to win the national championship. But that's going to be it for March Madness. We're going to actually have our brackets. We're going to put them up for everybody to see in case you guys want to play along with us at home and see how many of us can get some of these right. Obviously, none of us is going to get all of them right. There is a reason why Warren Buffett offers $1 billion for a perfect bracket because you pretty much have the odds of winning the lottery twice better than winning this bracket perfectly.
I know my bracket going to be busted after the first round.
You get that second chance bracket that comes out later on. I think people are still going to flop them down big time.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's the fun of it. I know some people that, like myself, I try to take it somewhat seriously. I do some research on it, and I pick my teams. I also know people that will pick based on whose team colors they like best or which mascot could beat up the other mascot.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times those are the people that do the best. So.
On my other bracket that I have, I'm using with my emotions. I got Alabama going all the way. I know that's not going to happen, but if it does, I guess I'd be a rich guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you. My heart would love to see Carolina get some revenge against Villanova for 2 years ago when they beat us on that buzzer beater. But like I said, with my head, I had to take the Xavier Musketeers. So That's going to be it for March Madness. Of course, we'll be updating our brackets and talking about this further as we move further into the tournament. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk NFL free agency. And there is a ton to talk about. Of course, that being the official starting year yesterday at 4 p.m. Wednesday. So a lot of stuff to talk about with NFL. And we'll discuss all of that and more when we come back from the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.
At Richmond Community College, we can prepare you for a high-skill, high-paying career in a variety of fields. From business to education, engineering, utilities, healthcare, criminal justice, information technology, and human services. At Richmond Community College, we can save you thousands of dollars on tuition through our university transfer programs that provide a seamless transition to universities and colleges throughout North Carolina. At Richmond Community College, we are always developing new courses and programs in response to the communities we serve. We offer day, evening, and online courses, and you can now complete 5 curriculum programs entirely online. At Richmond Community College, we believe in helping you prepare for a better life. Richmond Community College. Local college, big impact.
Exit Realty Platinum in Rockingham has listed one of the most beautiful homes in Richmond County. Located in Rockingham on Ledbetter Lake, the home features 4 bedrooms with bamboo floors and a kitchen featuring stainless steel appliances and granite countertops, and a master bedroom that overlooks Ledbetter Lake, along with a spacious tile shower and the attached master bathroom. The open living space leads to the back deck with a perfect view of Ledbetter Lake, and the property features its own boat dock. Want to see this beautiful home? Call Nicole Hayden with Exit Realty Platinum, your source for homes in Richmond and Moore counties.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Now, as I mentioned before the break, NFL free agency, the first official day was yesterday, and there was definitely a ton of movement. A lot of guys signing with some teams, a lot of guys getting traded, also a lot of guys getting cut, and we're going to get into all of that right now. So to jump right into it, perhaps one of the biggest stories involved yesterday was Kirk Cousins is going to sign with the Minnesota Vikings for 3 years, $84 million. Now, that is obviously a lot of money. Of course, in the NFL, there have been no fully guaranteed contracts. Well, you can axe that because Kirk Cousins is getting every bit of that $84 million. So, first of all, I want to ask you guys this question. Now that Kirk Cousins is going to Minnesota, does this make the Vikings the NFC favorites?
I truly believe they are now because of the signing, but also they are a favorite to win the NFC North pretty much for the next 2 or 3 years, because you're bringing in a guy who pretty much solidifies not only your quarterback position but solidifies your franchise as well. He coming in when he has weapons in All-Pro receiver in Adam Tindlin, and you got Kyle Rudolph, and then the backfield duel of Devin Cook and Latavius Murray. I think as long as you give him a solid offensive line and pretty much the defense was solid last year, I think Minnesota Soldier can repeat going back to the NFC title game and probably possibly have a Super Bowl run.
All right, what about you, Russell?
Yeah, I think they're a huge threat to the rest of the NFL. I think they can definitely pull off something. Probably not a Super Bowl or maybe not even a conference championship, but they can definitely be in the play for it. Especially with Kirk Cousins, he's a really good quarterback. I think I don't know how much that is compared to other quarterbacks that they normally hand off to, but if they pay him that much money, I think he's definitely got some potential there that they see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I read where this now makes him the highest paid player in the NFL, which some would argue that Kirk Cousins is not a top 20 quarterback. Myself, I'm a little biased being a Redskins fan. I think he's maybe in at least the top 10, maybe like 9 or 10, somewhere in there. I mean, think about this. This guy, he threw for 4,000 yards and 27 touchdowns last year with basically no wide receivers. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see how he's going to do with the weapons that he'll have in Minnesota that Case Keenum was able to take advantage of. And in my opinion, Kirk Cousins is a much better quarterback than Keenum. I think the Eagles are going to have something to say about it next year. But right now, I think with Cousins going to Minnesota, they are the team to beat in the NFC. Now, talking about his fully guaranteed contract, this is the first time this has ever happened. So how is this going to affect free agency moving forward? I mean, are other guys going to be expecting this? What do you think? I
believe it will, because you're going to have guys who have made it to the Pro Bowl year after year, has had a lot, and to the degree where they had did this and did that, and they want more senators, what they need to get. So they're going to be going to their, they're going to ask their agents, and agents going to the GMs like, hey, my client is pretty much doing this and doing that. So why he's not being paid top dollar as the highest paid wide receiver, running back, safety, linebacker?
Yeah.
And that kind of, and then if you don't guarantee his money, then that comes, his value is not, not with the team's not where you want it to be. So people really go take wherever money they feel like they can get guaranteed and go somewhere else.
All right, Russell.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some pros and cons to it. I mean, for one, getting guaranteed money is great for the player, but is that going to make them not want to play as hard anymore? Because if they want to get guaranteed money, then what's the point of putting my neck on the line every single Sunday and every single play when I know I'm going to get this money? So, on the other hand, players who do get this guaranteed money, they're probably going to say, "Hey, I've got to step up now so I can continue to show that they are getting what they paid for." Mm-hmm. So,
I look at it, and I think we talked about this last week about how NFL teams will cut players in a second when they're no longer any good to you. Mm-hmm. I don't see this type of deal happening across the board anytime soon, but there are better players overall than Kirk Cousins. And right now they're calling their agent saying, how come I didn't get this kind of deal? How come I'm not getting the full contract that my team signed me for? And I think that's a fair argument now.
Yeah, it is.
Now they've kind of broken this fourth wall by doing this, and I think that it's going to have some ramifications because of these other players that are going to come out and say, I should get paid just like Kirk Cousins did. So I think I'm kind of like you. I'm torn because there are pros and cons to it. I think these guys should deserve full contracts. I don't know if they're all going to get $84 million.
Yeah, you should definitely get paid for the work that you do,
right?
And not and don't get paid for the work you don't do. So
yeah, and I mean the NFL is such a money-making machine. Yeah. Some of the smaller contracts, there's no reason why they can't just guarantee them and I say only, but like a $30 million deal or something. Yeah. NFL owners can afford to do that. So I can see that trending up that way the further we move into the future and see how these contracts turn out. Now, of course, the Cleveland Browns. Seems like every year they make a lot of moves. Most times none of them seem to work out, but they have been extra busy this offseason. The couple weeks before this, some reports came out about some things they were going to do, but officially starting yesterday, I'm just going to read through some of these, and then I want to get your guys' opinion on everything the Browns have done. First of all, they dealt their starting quarterback from last year, Deshaun Kaiser, to the Packers for cornerback Demarius Randall. They are going to sign running back Carlos Hyde with a 3-year, $15 million deal. They traded for quarterback Tyrod Taylor from the Bills and got a couple of draft picks back for that. Of course, they traded for Miami Dolphins wide receiver Jarvis Landry for a couple of draft picks as well. Now, they are going to lose Joe Thomas, the all-pro, all-everything offensive lineman, like you said during the breaks, a surefire Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about that. But with everything that they've added to their team, first of all, how do you think the Browns are going to do next year?
All I gonna say, and they joking, but they better win a game with all these acquisitions they just got.
Yeah.
Because you look at that, you bring in Tyrod Taylor, who's already proven he can win games and can pretty much throw the ball, take on the leadership position where in the locker room. But then at the same time, you got weapons in Corey Coleman, and then you got Josh Gordon on one side, Landry on the other. Then then your running game pretty much just has picked up because they just Carlos Hyde, who's going back home because he played his running game with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then your defense is pretty much improving with the corners, with Randall, and then you got Jabril Peppers and other guys who pretty much is going to rise their stock up. Now, since all of this has been taking place, I think that's giving Cleveland Browns confidence.
Yeah.
And only that, not only confidence, they have probably now they're going to I want to win.
Yeah.
And going on. I don't want to be that 0-16 team with a parade that to a degree where, why are we having a parade for? We ain't win nothing.
Yeah. What do you think, Russell?
I think at this point, anything is an improvement for the Browns.
Yeah.
They need to at least get one win, like you said. They need something. They need to get things moving again because it's just nothing going on, nothing's working. You can trade all day, but it's also going to matter about how those players play with each other. And management, if they go another 0-16 season, they need to fire the management. It ain't the players; it probably the management this time.
I don't foresee the Browns losing 16 games again next year. I don't think they'll win a ton, maybe about 4 or 5 games, something like that.
My record would be probably 6-10 or 5-11.
Yeah, I
I think
think
they got 3 at least.
I think that they'll be in that realm. Tyrod Taylor obviously not going to be the future quarterback there. I don't think. I think I can still see the Browns drafting a quarterback in this upcoming draft. But still, they made a lot of moves. Carlos Hyde's a really good running back. The thing I wonder about, though, is the stigma that comes around Browns football. You know, they've been terrible for so long. Even if they bring in a lot of good players, do they get swept up in that culture and kind of end up doing the same thing where they don't make the playoffs? You know, you have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, anything possible because, you know, they got a good fan base and they real loyal.
And not only
Very
that,
low.
but with them being this terrible, it has also kind of increased their popularity among social media, just all their exposure is coming just from them sucking. So if they start doing good, then that kind of dies away and it kind of takes attention away from them. So maybe if they think losing is going to get them somewhere, you know, keep on going with that. But I
Yeah.
think they want to turn around and go back to winning.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't do well for them. Talking about some other quarterback moves, Drew Brees signed a 2-year, $50 million deal with the New Orleans Saints, so it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. And by the way, stop me, guys, if you have any comments about these. But Case Keenum is going to the Broncos. He's the one that actually started this domino effect. We all thought it would probably be Cousins that would make the first move, but Keenum said, actually the Broncos said, we're not going to wait. We're going to go out and get Keenum. I think that's going to be a good move for them with that defense. What do you think about that real quick?
I truly believe with Case Keenum coming to Denver, that is a very good move for them because now you solidified your quarterback position, and to the degree now you can pretty much Denver can contend now for the AFC West title again and pretty much can get back into the playoff contention. Which now he come in and he got weapons in Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, solid offensive line. You pretty much can move Chris Hubbard. They just signed today to the right tackle position, and they can move Gary Gold. They drafted last year to the right side. So I think there's some holes that can be pretty much put in place. But as time and the defense pretty well down the stretch, but I think it's gonna work dividends for Case Keenum and the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. And speaking of Case Keenum, you know, he was the Vikings quarterback last year.
Yes.
The other 2 quarterbacks that they had have already latched on to other teams. Sam Bradford's heading to Arizona, going to be the Cardinals, I'm assuming, starting quarterback next year.
Yeah, that right there. I think Arizona's pretty much by them signing Sam Bradford, known him and his history as well, injury prone and never got to the first round media like when they drafted him out of Oklahoma. I think a lot of the fans in Arizona are really upset with this because they looking at y'all waited all this time while we could have got Case Keenum, Kirk Cousins, but we had to settle for somebody. To me, it's damaged goods. But you never know. He might prove a whole lot of people wrong coming this season. But at the same time, you got weapons in the with David Johnson, and then you got Larry Fitzgerald probably gonna be his farewell season. And the offensive line was pretty solid. So and your defense pretty okay, but we'll see what happens with Arizona with the Sam Bradford saga. See how that goes out.
And speaking of damaged goods, another quarterback that perhaps could be that is Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater, the Vikings' other quarterback from last year. He's heading to New York to play for the Jets, as is cornerback Tremaine Johnson, who you can make a case is the top cornerback in the league. So the Jets making some moves. A couple other quick things, Panthers related. Julius Peppers is going to stick around in Charlotte for 1 more year. Talking about farewell seasons, this has to be it for him, right?
Yes, him and Thomas Davis and Ryan Khalil are going out on top. I truly believe that if Carolina, they picked up Torrey Smith and Breland from the Redskins today. I think it depends on how you're doing free agency in the next few weeks and then leading up to the draft. I think Carolina can compete, but I think to me this ought to be a motivation for Carolina to say, hey, we got 3 Carolina Panther legends here. They made multiple Pro Bowls. They've been leaders for us in the locker room over the years. Only thing they missing, let's go and get this ring.
And let me ask you this, Russell. You mentioned Torrey Smith being traded to Carolina. Is this going to be their number 1 receiver? Is this the guy they need to stick with?
I would think so. But I know one thing I'm actually very happy about is seeing Julius Peppers come back to Carolina. Because I grew up being a Panthers fan in the 2005-06 era, and Peppers was there and dominating. So I'm happy I used to be a Panthers fan. This kind of brings me back to being a Panther fan because Julius Peppers is back here in Charlotte. So happy about that.
And a former Tar Heel.
And also, he is reading on today. If he gets over 5 sacks next season, he'll be the second time NFL All-Time in sacks.
Oh, wow.
He'll beat Kevin Green. He'll beat Kevin Green, who also played for the Panthers, and he'll also beat Reggie White. But now Richard Daly from the Buffalo Bills, you're not gonna get that far.
And Peppers played last year at the age of 38, still had 11 sacks. So
Yes.
he's going to make $4.25 million in this one-year deal. The other one, of course, Richard Sherman, a big-time cornerback, maybe getting up there in age. He's been a little injury-prone. He's heading to the 49ers. What do you think of that real quick?
I think that was a good move, but I think Seattle did him a little bit of injustice because for the simple fact reason, you get rid of your top cover corner and send him to a rival. I think that pretty much boosted the fan base up in San Francisco to say, hey, we got one of the top cover corners in the league. And pretty much, I think that pretty much in Richard Sherman's defense, I say, oh, wow, they did me dirty, so I get to do them dirty twice, 2 times out the year.
Yeah.
So I get to cover whoever receiver Seattle got, and then I can maybe get a lick on Russell Wilson one good time.
And see, with him knowing who those players are on Seattle already, he kind of has that a gift to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure happens all the time when guys go to their rivals. Now, we're only a couple days into free agency, but so far, since a lot of stuff has happened, I'm going to ask both of you guys, out of everything, all the transactions, who won the first couple of days and who lost? Which teams?
I think the winners of this for the first day was Cleveland. Went out and got all these acquisitions to pretty much solidify their team to hopefully to win some games down the road. But I'm happy for what Cleveland has done, and let's see what happens during the season. But the losers of this one, I think, to me, was Arizona kind of lost out because you had all the time to pretty much get 2 quarterbacks in to come to Arizona, but you had to settle for a damaged good quarterback and Sam Bradford, and you already got Larry Fitzgerald pretty much farewell season. Bruce Arians gone, so I don't see Arizona being succeeded next year.
All right.
I think the winners will have to be the Browns because anything at this point is better for them. And I think the Panthers getting Julius Peppers back is a great thing. So for Panther Nation, it's a great thing. And then San Francisco, I think they got a good solid victory out in there as well.
Now, is there a team in particular that you think was a loser for today?
I'll just go Arizona.
Okay. Of course, the Browns obviously would be one that would be winning the free agency. But since you guys mentioned them, I'm going to say the Packers. Now, I know that they cut Jordy Nelson, who I think is number 2 in Packers history in receptions, which that's a big deal. But he's been a little injury prone lately, may have lost a step. What they've signed in return is tight end Jimmy Graham, who I think can be just a great receiver, tight end, slot guy for them, especially when
in the red zone.
Especially that, and with Aaron Rodgers behind center, he makes everybody better. So I see them as a winner. My team that is losing so far is anybody that didn't do anything yesterday and today. If you're not making any big-time moves, to me, you're at the bottom of the list because there's so many teams doing things. I feel like right now you're kind of being left out in the cold when it comes to free agency.
Doing something is better than nothing.
Exactly. And sometimes, maybe doing something might not look good, but right now, looking at it on paper, anybody that's not doing anything is going to be missing out. So we're going to take a quick break, wrapping up NFL here, and when we come back, we're going to talk some NBA MVP discussion since we're getting close to the end of the year. Could the San Antonio Spurs miss the NBA playoffs? Of course, we'll get your opinion as a Spurs fan, Jeremy, and all that and some more NBA talk. We come right back with the RO Sports Show brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.
McNair Auto Sales is the place to buy your pre-owned car, truck, or van. To be the best, it takes big selection, friendly staff, and great pricing. We guarantee a no-hassle buying experience, and financing is available right on site. So come see us today. We're located at 1026 East Broad Avenue in Rockingham. And remember, with over 40 years of experience, McNair is the name you can trust.
Family Pharmacy is a local pharmacy that's been in business in Rockingham for over 10 years. Located in the Food Lion Shopping Center on US 1 North, we have easy access into the store and a drive-thru for your convenience as well. You can download the official Family Pharmacy app at myfamilypharmacy.com, and we'll help you set it up to text you when your prescription is ready, and you can even set it up to fill your prescriptions when due. Our motto is we'll treat you like family, and it's something we truly mean. We take the same care in filling your prescription that we would take for our own family. Family Pharmacy, we'll treat you like family.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, of course brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Going to talk some NBA, guys, because we're getting closer to the end of the season, which of course will mean the playoffs for the NBA. But first off, talking about moving forward into the rest of the season, it was announced last week Steph Curry has suffered a ankle injury, and then Jeremy, you told me that yesterday Klay Thompson suffered a thumb injury as well. So at first I was going to ask, how does the Warriors losing Curry affect them moving forward? But now that we know that both of their guards are out, is this going to affect them in the playoff race?
I don't think so. They may drop to number 1, maybe number 2, but as long as you already got Kevin Durant on your team and you got Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, you pretty much can handle the pretty much the 4 positions and whatnot have you. I think it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt Golden State off defensively, but in some kind of way offensively, it's going to hurt them a little bit. That means they're going to have to pretty much rely on Draymond Green, especially on Kevin Durant, to pretty much carry the load until they fully recovered.
What do you think? You think it affects them at all?
Yeah, I think Kevin Durant's going to have a lot on his shoulders with his 2 men being out of the game. So, but I don't think it's going to hurt them terribly, especially for the playoffs. I mean, that'll last a few days overall. So, I mean, they'll be back soon, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
they'll be fine.
Yeah, Steph Curry is slated to come back March 20th. I'm not sure when Thompson's supposed to be out, but I mean, let's be honest. Unless these guys are out for the entire playoffs, the rest of the season, this isn't going to matter. Golden State's one of those teams that kind of just coasts through the regular season. They still win, 55, 60 games.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been instances where Steph Curry has been out and KD stepped up, and vice versa. Like KD might be out for a while, and Steph Curry, there's always somebody to take that next spot.
Yeah.
So I'm with you guys. I don't really think this is going to affect them in the long run. Maybe a little bit in the short run. I don't see them falling anywhere further than the 2 spot. Houston's right up there with them, but they're light years ahead of the rest of the West. Now, talking about the West and playoff spots, right now, the San Antonio Spurs, who are a perennial playoff team, are sitting at 38-30 overall, which is tied with the Utah Jazz for the 8th spot. Now, you told me Kawhi Leonard should be on his way back, if not this week, then next week. But San Antonio is 3-7 in their last 10, and is not trending upward as we get to the playoffs. Any chance that they don't make it in?
I believe San Antonio will make it in because we're looking at the history of the San Antonio Spurs. We face many adversities time and time after again. We always do well. I think it just pretty much it's a wake-up call for us to pretty much get back on track. And I think when Kawhi Leonard gets back from his injury, I think it's going to make San Antonio, the overall team, look better on them. And, hopefully LaMarcus Aldridge, Ginobili, and Parker will step up. And then we got some role players in place. Hopefully will give us, some kind of pressure off of the guys.
Yeah. Russell, any chance the Spurs miss out this year?
I don't know. I think it's a possibility they could. It just depends on how well they do from here on out. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they'll make it. I'm gonna say that. I don't think they'll make it.
All right. Well, that would be
Come on, man. You just saying that I'm a Spurs fan. That's all it is.
that would be the first time in quite a while
Yes,
since they would miss.
the last time San Antonio missed the playoffs was back in 95.
That far back. That's
Wow.
back in the David Robinson, Tim Duncan
Yeah.
days. I don't think the Spurs are going to end up missing the playoffs simply because Kawhi Leonard is slated to come back. I think there's enough games for them to be able to
At least
safely get in. There's only about a 2 or 3 game difference between the 9 spot and like the 5 or 3 or 4
because
spot.
we own the because of the tiebreaker we own over Utah.
Yeah, and Kawhi's going to come back. They're going to start playing better. I think what would be interesting is, let's say the Spurs get in as a 7 or 8 seed and have to play Golden State or Houston. If you're those teams, you don't want to run into San Antonio, especially in the playoffs. I mean, a Greg Popovich team is always going to do well in the playoffs. So it'd be interesting to see if that's what happens if we get a matchup that sometimes you would see in the West Championship.
Conference final.
If they get in, I say they'll go very far into it.
Yeah, San Antonio, they'll perform well, and we always done well even before Tim Duncan retired. Even after the post Tim Duncan era, we went to the playoffs and did pretty well. We just didn't produce enough just to beat Golden State.
Now, a local team that probably doesn't have a chance at going to the playoffs this year is, of course, the Charlotte Hornets. Right now, they sit at 29-39 overall. They're 4-6 in their last 10, which I said during the break is the epitome of what seems to be the Charlotte Hornets. Basically, for the last 5 or 6 years, they may have made the playoffs 1 or 2 years, but it was usually as a 7 or 8 seed in the East, which sometimes they don't even have a winning record. Which brings me to the question. The Hornets seem lately to be not good enough to make the playoffs, but not bad enough to get a top draft pick. They're kind of just floating out there. Basically, what's going on with the Hornets?
I think if you're looking at your roster, you're looking at your two best players on the roster is Dwight Howard and Kemba Walker. But if you're looking at push come to shove, you see you got Nicholas Batum. That was a contract that should have been shredded last year.
Yeah.
And then you got a unproven player in Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, which to me he'll be an excellent 6-man or a good role player for you. I think the narrative is it's the front office. I think because
You're putting it on Jordan then.
you're right, and I'm a big fan of you, but you suck as an executive. But I think the narrative is once that the front office, once Jordan comes in and tries to say, hey, we need a GM who have the experience, know what they're doing, and get some guys to come in and play for us, and we got a lot of salary cap, we got a lot of money in the salary cap where we could lure probably 1 or 2 superstars to come to Charlotte. And we've always fight for draft picks, but I know over the course of time with Charlotte, we always did good, but I think the narrative is we pretty much always we trust our instincts too much. Like, do we need to draft this guy? Do we need to draft that guy? And then a lot of time we go for this guy, he don't pan out, and we sitting here, we could oh my goodness, we could have got this guy, and he would have done wonders for us. But I think when push comes to shove at the end of the season, I think Charlotte will probably retool their roster, whatever case may be. But I think they need to start from the front office all the way down.
All right. What do the Hornets need to do to make playoffs again?
I think they should probably look more into the future of some of the younger players who are in college right now and try to pull some of them to their program. Because if you get some players who are trying to go to these bigger teams but they can't because there's already some top guys there, tell them, hey, you can come here and be a star. I think that should be something that they should focus on doing, especially the teams that are playing here in North Carolina. It's crazy that we have the best college teams here in the nation, but not the best NBA team.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems it's been that way basically since they came back as the Bobcats, really. That hadn't really had much success. But I would blow the whole thing up. That's what I would do. I'm surprised they didn't trade Kemba Walker and Dwight Howard
during the trade
deadline. I really was surprised. They're looking for a GM. Let's say they bring in Mitch Kupchak, which we've discussed before. Mm-hmm. He's going to want to do things his way. I would assume Jordan would say, do your thing, I trust you. Yeah. I trade Kemba, I trade Dwight. I'd get draft picks back for him. I try to get Nicholas Batum's contract off my books, even if you have to bring back an expiring contract that eats up a lot of money just to offset it. Some of the draft picks that we've made because we've been in that mid-tier, like Malik Monk this past year, he hasn't panned out. Of course, he's just his first year. Mm-hmm. Frank Kaminsky's just a role player. Cody Zeller, another role player. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, the exact same thing. So that's great that we've got role players, but you want to be drafting, you need a superstar there, and Kemba is that guy. But start over, get rid of everybody, and basically tank is what I'm saying, which a lot of NBA teams do now, like the 76ers. I mean, you look at them. For years, they were getting number 1 draft picks, and now they're one of the rising teams in the East, which brings me to our next thing. LeBron James, we talk about it seems like every week, free agency after this year. He can go anywhere he wants, or he can stay in Cleveland. Now, there was a report that came out this week that says he has narrowed his teams down to 4, those being the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Houston Rockets, and the 76ers. So I ask you guys all the time, but I want to get you maybe an update. Where do you think he lands this summer?
You know what? If push comes to shove, I would love to see LeBron James go to the Lakers next year.
Yeah.
Because I think the narrative is he pretty much accomplished everything that he has done with Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think if you want to go out to the sunset and solidify your career and get a statue like Kareem and Shaq and Kobe, I think that a big market team like the Lakers will come in. He can go there and pretty much be a mentor to those young players, can come in and pretty much the attendance will rise.
Yeah.
And ticket sales will rise.
Yeah.
And not only that he'll come in to be a mentor, but that'll put the Lakers back in playoff contention where they could compete for a championship.
Absolutely. Where do you think he ends up?
It's possible he can go back there and play for the Lakers and accomplish something from there. But I'm thinking about Cleveland fans.
Right.
And I don't know if he really wants to go through with that again, whether or not that bothers him or not. But I think he might stay in Cleveland just because I think if he's got something good going there, keep it going.
Yeah, I don't personally think he would care, if they burned his jerseys and all that. He didn't seem to care the first go around. I'm starting to lean towards him staying in Cleveland again, especially after they made all those trades and got younger. They've played a lot better since they did all that. But I'm going to say the Sixers because I don't see him going to the Lakers and I don't see him going to Houston, even though that would be a great team. But in the near future out there, you're going to have to deal with the Warriors always. And if he goes to the Lakers, he's still going to have to deal with James Harden and Chris Paul in Houston. Whereas if he stays in the East, goes to Philly, he's got Ben Simmons, a number 1 pick, Joel Embiid, a number 1 pick, some other role players that are developing.
J.J. Redick.
And he stays in the East where he's got a straight shot through that. Now, of course, Boston's good. Toronto's playing great this year.
Oh, yeah.
But I think if you pair LeBron up with, like you mentioned in L.A., some younger guys, it'll rejuvenate him. He'll be able to, be that mentor later on in his career. And anywhere LeBron goes is going to elevate the team automatically, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, put him back in playoff contention. Just like if he go to Philly, we probably be from number 8 to probably be in the top 4 teams in the East.
Yeah. And by the way, Charlotte Hornets executives, if you're watching, get rid of everybody and sign LeBron, and we'll be good to go.
Just LeBron. That's all we need.
Just LeBron.
Yeah, and understand this: the All-Star game's in Charlotte next year.
That's right, it is, and that would be neat, right?
Yeah, so hopefully that we can get LeBron to come down, and hopefully we can watch him play in the All-Star game.
That would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, wishful thinking
Maybe
that he's
we'll
going
have
to.
him show him around a little bit of Charlotte.
Yeah.
What's going on around
You
there.
get shown the
say-
Bank of America Stadium.
It'd probably be wishful thinking to
Yeah.
think that he would come and play in Charlotte for Michael Jordan, who he's already compared to enough. But speaking of LeBron, of course, every year he's in the MVP discussion. It's almost to a point where we overlook him, even though he's playing this year as great as he ever has as he's getting older. But real quick, your MVP, who do you think it is right now, or maybe at the end of the season when we all get
I
done?
think we come down to end of the year. I think James Harden will be probably the most deserving one
From the Houston Rockets?
from the
Okay.
Houston Rockets.
Deserving, probably, but I think LeBron's going to get it anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are 2 worthy candidates. A couple other guys, Anthony Davis from the Pelicans is having a great year. He's averaging 28 points and 11 rebounds. Of course, KD, another guy, Kevin Durant, that's always on the list. He's he's scoring 26.5 points, 6.8 rebounds. I'm going to throw a dark horse out there, a guy that's been playing probably the best in the NBA the last couple weeks.
Russell Westbrook.
I was actually going to say Damian Lillard from the Portland Trailblazers. He's averaging 27 points a game and 6.5 assists. And right now, the Trailblazers are the hottest team in the NBA. You know how the Rockets went on a
The
streak.
Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Him?
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Now, a lot of power rankings have him as like the 5th out of 5 guys. But we still got some season left to play. And the Trailblazers end up, right now, I think they're sitting in the 3 spot in the Western Conference. That's
Man,
how
shut
that's how
your
much
mouth,
they've
for
jumped
real.
up. Them and New Orleans, because Anthony Davis on here as well.
Yeah,
So
and I can give credit for Anthony Davis. Even when DeMarcus Cousins went down with his injury, I think he took the team. He's taking the team on his back and doing well.
yeah, and I mean that's what you want from your leader, and something that I again wish the Hornets were able to draft some of these guys.
And you know what? Even when I still say when it was probably that first year where Charlotte had just they renamed the team the Hornets, and I remember in the draft pick I think they got cheated out of that draft pick because you remember that year because I think Philly had got it even though Charlotte had the worst record in the league that year, and we had a golden opportunity to get Anthony Davis. We just didn't take advantage of it. And see look what happened.
I
I
think
know we were talking about LeBron here a minute ago, but saying he probably doesn't want to come to Charlotte. But you think Jordan wants him to come to Charlotte?
If the price is right.
well, I mean, obviously, no matter who you are, any kind of owner is going to want LeBron to come there. I mean, I'm sure that he looks at LeBron as his version contemporarily, but why wouldn't you? Any owner, I think, even if it is Michael Jordan, which is a little different because not everybody. His team has the greatest basketball player of all time, at least arguably, as their owner of their team. Now, as we do every week, we make predictions. Now, we're going to get into our prediction from last week in the next segment because we actually talking about a little professional wrestling as we like to do. But looking forward for next week's show, the prediction I'm going to throw out to you guys is the Golden State Warriors are facing the San Antonio Spurs this upcoming Monday at 9:30 on ESPN. Of course, like we said, the Spurs fighting to make the playoffs, Golden State firmly in there. So who you got, Golden State or San Antonio?
I've been a Spurs fan since 1999. I'm going for the Spurs because we're the 5-time NBA champions.
All right, who you got?
Well, I'm going to go with the Warriors on this one because their record looks better to me, and Kevin Durant's averaging 26.6 points per game. So I think with Durant on their team, I think they've got a solid victory in their hands.
I agree with you, Russell. I'm going to take the Warriors. If for no other reason, we're going to try to knock you off of your undefeated streak. So, but obviously, I mean, the Warriors, you can almost pick them most games that they play. Like I said, we're going to get into a little professional wrestling on the other side of the commercial break. We're also going to talk some NASCAR and Tiger Woods coming in second this past week at the Valspars Championship in golf. So we're going to talk about that and plenty more when we come right back with more from the RO Sports Show brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.
Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts is all about rustic home decor and gifts. You will always find a variety of unique antiques, vintage, and new items in our shop. Come and see our selection of housewarming, new baby, and wedding gifts. For the man in your life, we have many collectibles, Boker knives, and leather. And ladies love the jewelry, purses, candles, hats, and t-shirts. We also offer a 30-day layaway program. Come and experience shopping at Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts.
Hospice, you guys just outdo yourselves every day, and I really appreciate it. I honest to God don't know what I would do if it weren't for you. The things that you do, I'm in approval of, and thank you. I don't know what else to say other than thank you.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Now, as I mentioned again before the break, guys, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, some kind of smaller, or not necessarily smaller, but what I call a potpourri of sports, or maybe sportpourri as a little catchy name. But first, to start out, Tiger Woods finished second overall last week at the Valspar Championship. He shot a 665. He tied with Patrick Reed for second. They were only one stroke behind eventual winner Paul Casey. They're actually headed to the Arnold Palmer Invitational this upcoming week. They're going to be playing at Bay Hill, where Tiger has won 8 times. Now, last week during Love It or Hate It, you guys said that you loved that he was playing a lot of tournaments before the Masters. I went the other way, said I hate it simply because I'm afraid of him getting hurt. But I wanted to revisit that because I was completely wrong, because I was afraid maybe he would put too much out there. But the guy played great. What do you think? Does this help his chances coming into the Masters?
I believe it do, and this give him confidence because you play second in one of the big time tournaments. They in leading up to the Masters, you ought to be go Tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to help him tremendously, knowing, especially mentally, knowing that he can still win these tournaments or get a good solid finish is going to help him mentally getting into Augusta. And these other players who are watching Tiger from the outside, they're starting thinking he's going to be a real threat when he gets into Augusta because they can see what he can do. But on the flip side, that they do get to see what he's doing, they can watch him and they can learn something from him by him being out there with them. So either way, but I think it's going to help him more than it helps other players.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, he's won Bay Hill 8 times. So to go from a tied for second finish to potentially winning the very next week's tournament, I mean, that's huge, especially as we get closer to the Masters. So, I'm doing a 180 on that. I think at this point it's going to do wonders for him. He'll be able to play on a course that he's familiar with. He'll continue to build his confidence. And, of course, Tiger wins. That's always great for golf, even if he's just up there at the top of the leaderboard. So a win for golf in general. Now, switching gears, literally and figuratively, we're going to talk a little NASCAR. Of course, Kevin Harvick won for the 3rd week in a row in Phoenix this past Sunday at ISM Raceway. How did he do it?
Well, I mean, he owns that track essentially. I think he's won the last 6 out of 8 or something like that of years being at that track. But it's his 3rd win in a row. He won Atlanta 2 weeks ago and Las Vegas last week. Dominated both those races. But with Phoenix here, he didn't dominate. He was kind of a little just in the back, of course, coming off of a penalty, an L1 penalty, which took away a lot of his points took away all points they earned from Las Vegas because of the dent in the back of his car where a brace had broken. But after the race when he won at ISM, he got out and slapped the back of it and said, "This is for all the haters out there."
Do you think those points might come back to haunt him later on in the season?
I don't really think so. Not right now. I mean, we're probably going to get into the playoffs, sure, but right now I don't think it's going to hurt him because I see him winning maybe at least 2 or 3 more for the season over with because they'll have to go back to ISM later this year. They've got a whole bunch of other 1.5 mile tracks, which he's won all 1.5 mile tracks so far with Atlanta and Las Vegas. But I don't think he'll win this coming up week, though.
Okay, and yeah, we'll get into that right now. After this past Sunday, where are we headed to this upcoming weekend?
We are going to be in California. We're going to be in Fontana, California, specifically at Auto Club Raceway or Speedway, and it's a 400-mile, 200-lap race. Last year's winner was Kyle Larson. I believe that was his first career victory, or his first Cup victory. And I'm saying that he has good potential to win that race again this year. But I think Kyle Busch might give him a run for his money.
So you're taking Kyle Busch.
Much as I hate to admit that, yes, I am.
You heard it here first. Kyle Busch is going to win.
He has been showing a lot of potential the past few weeks. He's been finishing second in the last 2 weeks, actually. Running up front, doing very good. His 18 team has definitely got something going on there. And I think he might have the potential to win it this year. I don't think Kevin Harvick would go 4 in a row because he hasn't really done too well at that track in the past. He's always had some bad luck, whether the Jackman couldn't get his car to go up high enough or something. Usually happens in the pits, but maybe they got that solved this year and they can still do it. But yeah, I think Kyle Busch will certainly give a good run here.
Well, you're the man when it comes to picking them. You got a few of them right so far, so we'll have to wait and see if Busch is victorious. Now, a story that you brought to my attention that is a bit odd in my opinion, but I want to get your take on it. Lowe's is apparently dropping Jimmie Johnson as a sponsor.
Yeah, so yesterday it came out that Jimmie Johnson and Lowe's will be departing from one another. Lowe's is backing out of after 2018 when their contract's kind of ending there. So 2019, Lowe's is not going to be on the 48 car anymore, which is, I mean, if you think about NASCAR, you always expect Dale Earnhardt to be in a Chevrolet. You always expect a Pepsi to be in Jeff Gordon's hand, and you always expect Lowe's to be on the front of that 48 car. That's not going to happen any longer, and that's shocking to me. I don't understand why. I mean, Lowe's came out and said they're looking for better opportunities that helps them out. From my understanding, from what I've read, that they're kind of hurting financially a little bit too. But it's also the first time in a while that we've not had a home improvement store sponsoring a NASCAR. Of course, a few years ago, the Home Depot had dropped out, and now here comes Lowe's dropping out too. So it's pretty surprising to me still that we're losing Lowe's in the 48.
Yeah, and I kind of get the Home Depot dropping out, but Lowe's, I mean, as far as racing, you think Lowe's, you think Jimmie Johnson. I mean, how long has he been a sponsor with them?
He has been with them for all 7 championships. I think at least back when he first got in at NASCAR, so it's like 2003, 2004-ish. That he has had Lowe's and has been loyal to him. It's just like Jeff Gordon with DuPont has been on his car forever, or STP with Richard Petty, and those sponsors, they stay with that driver and they give that recognition in more ways than one when it comes to that. If you see that Browns in the shelf, you're going to pick it because it's your driver. And that's how I am sometimes with Logano. I would make sure I get Shell gas and Pennzoil oil, but so I don't know how Jimmie Johnson fans going to react to this. With Lowe's backing out, I don't know if they'll do any more shopping over there.
And it makes me wonder if there's maybe something else going on with this because they've been in a relationship for so long. I don't know what that is. I don't know how much Lowe's pays him, if it actually is a financial thing. But, because the two are so closely tied together, I'm thinking if I'm Lowe's, that's one of the things that I wouldn't want to lose because, I mean, that's one of their biggest ways of advertising, I would think, is having Jimmie Johnson's, car.
And it could be another situation where it could be on Jimmy's side where he could be potentially retiring in a few years. And Lowe's sees that and says, look, if this guy isn't going to be doing very well for next few years because he's just slacking a little bit because he's going to retire soon, then what's the point of keep spending that money and we're just going to go ahead and back out. But in my opinion, I think that's a bad idea because I would say you want your brand to retire with that driver in a sense, or at least finish out with that driver because that shows their brand loyalty to that driver, and not just the other way around, drivers to the sponsor.
Yeah, and Jimmy Johnson's it's not exactly like the guy's a scrub. I mean,
No.
like you mentioned, 7 championships. He's first ballot Hall of Famer when he retires, right?
Tied up with Earnhardt and Petty with
Yeah.
most wins in the championship and numerous wins. I think might have like the 4th overall. I know he surpassed Dale Earnhardt in number of wins. He's truly one of the greatest in the sport. I know a lot of people don't want to admit that, but those are a lot of the haters.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't deny the numbers, and they're right there in your face that he's going to go down as one of the
And a very
greatest.
stand-up guy too. He is
Yeah.
very great on the racetrack. He's never really been in confrontations. Some words might be said here and there, but he never is the one to get in the middle of brawls or any fights or anything like that in the pits.
And hopefully we'll get some clarity as this story develops and find out, if what exactly the case was, and see what happens with Lowe's if they go maybe get a younger guy out there to sponsor and see who wants to take over Jimmy Johnson's 48. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, for our picks this week, we went with WWE Fastlane's pay-per-view, which was this past Sunday. First of all, AJ Styles retained, will now be facing
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But for our picks, we had Randy Orton versus U.S. champion at that time, Bobby Roode. Of course, you got it right on the button. You took Randy Orton. We both took Roode to retain. Of course, Randy Orton is now the U.S. champion.
I think what you're going to solidify is you like the resident expert of sports now.
But let's start right there. Randy Orton now is the champ. Bobby Roode obviously is going to get a rematch. I'm assuming that's going to be at WrestleMania. I don't think that one's official yet. But is this going to be a one-on-one match? Is anybody else going to be in the mix? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a one-on-one match again. And I think when it comes to WrestleMania, I think I would love to see Randy Orton retain the title, but I think Bobby Roode will try to get it back.
Yeah.
Well, after the match, Jinder Mahal came out and attacked Randy Orton after he won it. So I think Jinder Mahal's going to have some play in it, and maybe Bobby Roode will get his opportunity for his rematch clause maybe before WrestleMania and get dropped out of the match quickly. But at the same time, I can kind of see it being turned around where Mahal gets involved in that rematch, and then they eventually turn into a triple threat match at WrestleMania. And I think Bobby Roode will come out on top of that and just have Randy Orton and Mahal just feuding together afterwards. So, yeah, I think it'll be a triple threat.
I also see Mahal getting involved. A guy that WWE really been pushing lately was champ not that long ago. I could see it being a triple threat. I could see even adding a couple other guys. Dolph Ziggler doesn't necessarily have a program out there. A guy that just basically said, here's my belt, I don't want it anymore, and hasn't really done anything since then. Baron Corbin, another guy that's just kind of hanging out there, mid-tier heel, if you will. A couple guys that we could see get
I would
put in the
love to
mix
see
there.
Corbin with the championship,
Yeah.
the WWE championship, after Nakamura and Styles sort their stuff out.
And I would love to see Dolph Ziggler get a chance at the U.S. title because, I always compare him to the next Shawn Michaels of this generation. But I think as WWE, they really had not been pushing him because he's been under people's shadow for so long.
Another match from SmackDown that's already been slated to be at WrestleMania is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to mix it up.
Dream match.
Yeah, I
Dream
mentioned,
NXT.
I mentioned a couple weeks ago that there was some tension between them that WWE was creating. Figured this was probably what was going to happen. Of course, Shane McMahon got caught up in that and got knocked out on SmackDown.
I'd see that.
But at WrestleMania, real quick, prediction: KO or Sami Zayn?
Sami Zayn.
All right.
I think I'm going to go with Sami Zayn on that one, too. I think it's about time Sami got that retribution, that revenge back on him after the few years that have been in NXT, and then recently when they got into WWE, it's always been Owens over Zayn. I think it's time Zayn will get over.
I think Sami Zayn's going to win. He's going to be a face again, and stop pairing up with KO, who it seems like is always the heel. I can see this as being a springboard for Sami Zayn and really elevating his career moving forward. Now, AJ Styles, as I mentioned, defended his belt. He won. He's going to be facing Nakamura at WrestleMania. Who you got in that one?
Nakamura.
Okay.
Nakamura.
Oh, both of you going.
I mean, AJ Styles is certainly, no pun intended, well, pun is intended, phenomenal. But I think Nakamura has paid his dues the past few months he's been in WWE, and of course in NXT, has just blown the whole universe over what he's been able to do. And especially his entrance. I cannot wait to see that at WrestleMania. Him and Bobby Roode.
I'll tell you who's going to win this match is the fans. I could even see, I would make a case that this should be the main event.
Oh yes.
These two are going to put on a heck of a match. It's going to be, bodies flying everywhere. The charisma of both of them. I would love to pick Styles, but I can see Nakamura winning, being like one of those iconic big WrestleMania moments going down in New Orleans. And then finally, John Cena came out on SmackDown and has officially called out The Undertaker, a match that we've been kind of predicting for a few weeks now. Who do you think's going to win this one?
This should be, and I for two icons in their time, and in the past couple of years, I know I've seen ever since with the streak, he has been 1 and 2 because he beat Shane McMahon, lost to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. I think this is going to be a moment where the Undertaker get his face back and win, and possibly can go out on top.
I think he'll win it too. I really have been wanting to see this match for the past few years now. I can't believe it's never happened beforehand. But I can remember when Cena first got in, and Undertaker was back then in his biker gimmick. So I think that I hope they do bring back the biker gimmick, just kind of throw that back. But
yeah, that'd be nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see that persona come out as well. I agree. I think the Undertaker is going to win. John Cena is moved back in this part of his career as kind of a part-time guy, but he's still around a lot more, obviously, than the Undertaker. I think they're going to let Taker. I really think this is finally going to be his last match, and they're going to allow him to go out on top by beating Cena, who Cena can still come back. Maybe next year's
Redeem
WrestleMania,
himself, yeah.
And probably
he
win
breaks the record held by Ric Flair.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. So, big WrestleMania moments coming up soon. Of course, as I said before, I want to get together with you guys and do a whole WrestleMania show because as people that watch, you all obviously know that we love to talk professional wrestling. Now, looking at the local level, some quick sports. Of course, you can read all this on the Richmond Observer app and at richmondobserver.com. The Richmond Raider baseball team this past Tuesday lost a pitcher's duel 1-0 against Pinecrest. Raiders ace pitcher Trey Watkins had 11 strikeouts in the game. He's actually struck out 23 guys in his last 2 games, so he's having a great season so far. He only gave up 2 hits during the game in a complete game, but unfortunately the Raiders weren't able to scrap enough runs together to give him some run support. They will face the Patriots tomorrow night, Friday, up there in Southern Pines in Moore County. The Raiders softball team, who is always having good seasons, they won against Pinecrest on Tuesday as well, 10-0 in a mercy rule game. Grayson Way threw a no-hitter, which was the first of her career. And again, the ladies will head, as the men, up to Southern Pines to play Pinecrest at 7 p.m. on Friday. Speaking of Grayson Way, she is joining Shane Sumi, who is the official Richmond County Athletes of the Week, of course presented by McNair Auto Sales. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to the Lady Raiders for winning their softball game. And, even though the baseball team didn't win, Trey Watkins just a heck of a game and a lot of good things probably ahead in his future.
They played against a pitcher who was going to Tar Heels, ain't he?
Yeah, the guy that they faced, his name is Nick Pry, and he's already slated to go to UNC next year. Like I said, these guys, there was hardly any hits. I think there was 5 hits altogether in the game. So it was a great game to watch. Now, myself, I love pitching duels. I'm kind of an old school baseball guy. I would rather watch the game last night as opposed to a game that's got 4 or 5 home runs in it. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I'm in the minority, it seems like these days, because chicks dig the long ball, as they say. But, again, great game all around for the Richmond Raiders. When we come back, of course, we're going to do our Big Impact of the Week presented by Richmond Community College. And my favorite, maybe yours, love it or hate it. So all of that and more when we come right back after these messages. You're watching the RO Sports Show brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.
Rockingham Farm Supply, at the corner of Highway 220 and Green Street in Rockingham, will have their annual Customer Appreciation Day, March 23rd and 24th. Some great food and great company. Come on down. Check out the Bobcats. They are an authorized dealer for Bobcat zero-turn mowers. They have seed, chicks, chain, key making, a little bit of everything that you could use for your farm or your home. So come on down, enjoy some food, some fellowship, and just maybe you might get to meet Matthew and Mark. Maybe they'll give you a ride on one of the Bobcat zero turns.
Welcome back to RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Now, guys, as I mentioned before the break, we're going to get into our big impacts of the week and love it or hate it. But first, March is Women's History Month. Something that we don't talk about nearly as much as we should, but women's athletes, just as important as men's athletes, athletics, but your guys' opinion, greatest female athlete of all time, who you got?
It was by me being a professional wrestler fan, and this lady was my first crush when I first started seeing was Trish Stratus. First woman ever to hold multiple WWE Women's Championships, the end of the woman in WWE history. Also a female of the year by the WWE, and pretty much a mentor to a lot of the women and in the Hall of Famers. So looking back at her career and everything, she was loved by the fans and loved her with her Stratusfaction and all of that, especially with a whole lot of matches that were brought up with her and other women during that time. So I could, happy Women's Day to Trish Stratus.
And there's no doubt that, even though professional wrestling is scripted, they're still athletes. So
yes.
Absolutely no doubt that Trish is definitely an athlete.
My friend's actually a wrestler. He came home from one night and he had a really bad mark right here just from getting chopped. So
oh yeah,
you definitely get hurt when you do wrestling.
So who's your favorite all-time female athlete?
I'm gonna go with Janet Guthrie, who is the first woman to ever enter into the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500. In 1977, that was when she entered in both of those, and she finished 9th in the Indy 500.
Okay, so not necessarily a name that most people would know, but I'm sure racing fans do.
She certainly was somebody who got people like Danica Patrick up in there to begin with. So.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to make a boring old pick, and I'm going to take Serena Williams, who has dominated tennis along with her sister Venus, but her more so, basically since she came on the scene. I don't have the stats in front of me, but there's no doubt she's won all the Grand Slams, all of the big tournaments.
U.S. Opens. And
she's won them all. She just recently came back and played her sister, and I think Venus beat her either yesterday or Tuesday. I'm not sure which day that was. So right now, Venus has the bragging rights, but again, Serena, one of the best of all time from the female side. Now, going to do our big impact of the week, of course, presented to you by Richmond Community College, whose motto is local college, big impact. So, Jeremy, who's your big impact of the week?
I want to say congratulations to Gordon Peele, whose lifelong dream came on Monday where he signed his letter of intent to play college baseball at Brunswick Community College. I think he's the senior catcher for that team. He's doing pretty well, and congratulations to you, and I pray for all your future endeavors, and hopefully one day we'll see you in the major leagues.
That'd be great.
My big impact is Colin Sexton from the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team, who they didn't win the SEC championship tournament or anything big, but they did get some really big wins in the tournament. First one against Texas A&M with a buzzer beater, he got that one there. Also scored 27 points in that game. And then came and brought back Alabama against rival Auburn in the next round, 31 points against them. So big impact there, and Roll Tide.
Yeah, and Colin Sexton, another one of those guys that could come in and take over the tournament. I myself have them beating Virginia Tech, an ACC team, in the first round, as I'm sure you do too, of course. Then they run into Villanova, and I don't know if Sexton is enough.
I'm hoping that something just happens, but
nonetheless, Colin Sexton, a big impact for you. My big impact of the week is going to be North Carolina Central from the Mid-Eastern Conference. Made the big tournament this year for the second year in a row. Now, unfortunately, they lost last night to Texas Southern in one of the play-in games. But once again, a small school from North Carolina that's in the tournament, and it seems like there's a lot of teams in North Carolina that tend to make the tournament year in and year out that people don't necessarily think about, them being one of them. So now we'll get into Love It or Hate It. And we got some baseball in here. We got some basketball. And we also have some hockey. Now, we don't talk about a lot of hockey here, but as of right now, the Carolina Hurricanes are looking for a new general manager. Ron Francis stepped down and is taking a different position. So Hurricanes looking for a new GM. Love it or hate it?
I love it. Anything to help your franchise to win games and hopefully win the Stanley Cup, go for it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to say love it too, especially if you understand that if you're not helping and you step down and take a different role, that helps out a lot. So I'm going to say love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe he just wasn't getting the job done like the owner likes, the president likes. So maybe moving him into a different capacity and finding someone who's better suited for it will be the way to go. Right now, the Hurricanes are kind of like the Hornets, where they're sitting on the outside looking in as far as the playoffs. Of course, they're over 500 and still have a shot at getting in. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, talking some baseball, Ichiro Suzuki, a Hall of Famer already, one of the greatest players, at least in my generation, but he is returning to the Seattle Mariners, where he made his name when he came over from Japan. He's going to finish his career there. So Ichiro returning to Seattle, love it or hate it.
I love it. If you want to love to come back and where you start your career, end it where you finish.
Yeah,
I love it too. Again, like you just said, returning back to where you started at and retiring with that. Kind of like Julius Peppers for the Panthers. I love it when a player can have that choice to do that.
Right there with you guys again. I love that Ichiro is going to return to Seattle. I love that Seattle was accommodating and allowed him to sign a one-year deal to come back. The fans love him there. He always loved it because he stayed there for so long. And I think he'll be a first-ballot Hall of Famer as a Mariner when he comes out. Also in baseball, the Washington Nationals have been practicing walk-off home run trots during spring training. Love it or hate it?
You go first.
I guess I'm going to say, hey, because I don't think that's worth practicing.
Yeah.
I hate it because it's funny to me. You doing that, and while you're in the process getting ready for spring training, leading up to the next baseball season. Why you playing professional guys doing fundamentals?
See, I thought one of you guys might say love it, because I'm definitely going to say hate it. Now, as a Braves fan, I do not like the Nationals, and if Bryce Harper is participating in this, then I'd hate it even more. But I mean, why are you doing this? This is kind of where baseball is headed, though, where it's more showmanship and more flash and stuff like this, bat flipping. Do I think you need to be practicing this? No. Maybe it was just kind of a joke thing. But there's more important things they could be practicing during spring training than walk-off home runs. Now, looking at basketball, the University of Connecticut, the Huskies, have fired basketball head coach Kevin Ollie. They, of course, just won a national championship with him as their coach just a few seasons ago. Letting him go, love it or hate it?
I hate it because you got a guy who pretty much was a rookie head coach and transitioned from the NBA, coming back to the college ranks and won a national title. And just because you had a couple of off seasons where it could have been bad recruiting, or you just didn't have the guys to play around to end up winning games and get to the tournaments and stuff like that. But I think UConn as a basketball team, even with the athletic, I think down the road they're gonna really regret it down the road.
I'm gonna go on the flip side here and say love it, just because you might have that good year, but if you're not consistently doing great, I think you should be allowed to have one off year. But after that, if you're not able to improve off that off year, then something's wrong, and usually it comes back to the coach. So I think it's a good idea. So I'm saying love it.
I'm going to say love it too. You mentioned when they won it, he was a rookie coach, which means none of those guys were his recruits. So they gave him a few years to put his own guys in his program and in his system, and it hasn't worked out the way that they wanted to, so they let him go. I get it, though. This is Connecticut. This is a blue blood when it comes to college basketball.
Yeah, a powerhouse.
Because of all the great seasons that Jim Calhoun built with the program. To me, it would be the equivalent, just to make it local, of if Roy Williams retires, we bring in a coach at Carolina, he has 3 or 4 subpar years, he's gone. Carolina's not going to put up with that, and UConn, I think, is the same way.
I think teams should give the head coaches 4 years minimum to see what they can do, because that way they can have their first recruiting class go all the way through and just see where that goes. So that's my opinion.
I think there's no doubt, though, because it's UConn, there's going to be coaches lining up to take this. I mean, that's the top flight program when they're doing their thing. And then finally, something you want to talk about big time, the East Carolina. They finally parted ways with athletic director Jeff Comfort.
I love it.
All right, why? Why you love it so much?
Comfort has just turned this program around to it's just gone downhill overall, not just with football, but everywhere else. And it's bad that the whole athletic department, they're not listening to the fans. We got a banner up in the air with an airplane flying around that says "Fire Comfort." You need to do something about that.
Yeah.
And whether or not he was a good person or not, but when the fans are not showing up at football games and you're thinking everything's all fine and dandy when it's not, because you got empty seats everywhere, finally getting rid of that problem, I love it.
All right, what do you think?
I won't say love it because if you're not doing the job you're supposed to do, I think East Carolina could headed to a different direction where if you ain't direction where your football team pretty much is a dominant football school. If it's people not coming to coming to the games, people are not happy. Go. It's time to clean house.
And there's a lot of potential in ECU football. A few years ago, they had beaten just about every North Carolina team in the state, and they were pretty much North Carolina champions, if you will. They didn't play Duke that year, but they played against UNC and NC State and whooped up on both of them.
Yeah, I believe they hung like 68 points on the Tar Heels, which was funny because during that weekend, the football team scored more. The basketball team scored less points than the football team did. That's how bad ECU whipped up on them. But yeah, I agree. I love this. Jeff Comfort, it seems like, has become toxic at ECU.
Oh, yeah.
It's just kept building and building and building. The banner that you're talking about, it was actually a friend of mine that financed that and organized it. He set the banner up there, a guy I graduated high school with. He's also the one that started the Fire Comfort campaign on Facebook and online.
You see T-shirts at the basketball games, they're still saying Fire Comfort. That's just terrible for
that's
the
embarrassing. That's
university.
embarrassing.
And he was actually the one that jumped out early and trademarked that and made all those T-shirts and all that stuff because he was an ECU alum. And, alums, they want to see their programs do well. And when you see a guy who has not only tanked the football program, but like you said, it seems like every other sport is either not doing well or they're, over budget or both. Like you said, it's time to clean house.
And my sister graduated from there, and she can tell you, she's still up there in Greenville. She can tell you right now that it's just a really bad atmosphere for ECU overall, just not having that great team that they had before. And they're certainly not like national championship material, but they have a good team where they can pull for and be proud of. With Comfort there, I mean, it's just embarrassing.
Look, I would have even made a case a couple years ago when all of these conferences were realigning. I said maybe the ACC should look at taking in ECU and another team and making it 16 teams.
Yeah.
But not right now. And hopefully somebody will come in who's a little more qualified and will do a great job of bringing ECU back from the brink, basically, is where they're sitting at, back from the dead, like my zombie guy here. But that's going to do it, folks, for this edition of the RO Sports Show. Of course, you can watch us on, let me start here, the RO YouTube page, the RO app, the RichmondObserver.com website. You can, of course, listen to us on The Classic Rock. And it's all free, man.
I like to call it a triple Thursday on Thursdays. You got Live 5 on the Classic Rock, followed by RO Sports Show, and then you got Confessing the Blues right afterwards. So
yeah,
three for Thursday.
Yeah, we got a nice little Thursday block there.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
yeah, doing big things here with the Richmond Observer. But we appreciate everybody joining us, and we'll see you all right back here next week, Thursday nights at 5:30. Have a wonderful evening. You've been watching the RO Sports Show, of course, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics.